Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer.
But who is he?
Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer.
And who is he?
Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer.
And what he do?
And he's gonna react to all the self-snitching.
Hi, this is Bruce Rivers. Welcome to another episode of Criminal Lawyer Reacts, where we react to the news of the day, rap music, and all kinds of other stuff, and hopefully give you guys a little bit of wisdom to impart you on your day. So today we're going to be talking about a couple of different things. This is going to be mainly an episode about cases that are in the news and different things like EDP 445. I've had a lot of requests for me to talk about that, react to some things. On that note, there's some PPP loan stuff that are really funny that I'd like to react to. Also give you an update on Pretty Ricky. Pretty Ricky is a rapper who is about to plead guilty or has pled guilty soon, and I'll tell you what he's facing, and that is regarding a PPP loan. And then we'll wind up with an update on Lil Durk. So let's get right into it. And I have to use these because I'm old. Anyway, let's talk about EDP. First of all, what does EDP stand for? Eat Dat Pussy. And what did he do? Well, he was recently caught on camera meeting underage girls. There was an online kind of sting operation, for lack of a better word, where these guys, they're called predator poachers. And they sort of act like that guy from Dateline, where they set you up, and you think you're talking to an underage girl, and you're not. You're actually talking to them, but you set up this meeting, and you're setting up, like the catch a predator, that kind of gotcha journalism. Well, these guys aren't journalists, but and it doesn't look like he's going to be charged with anything, but he made a date to go meet an underage girl. And if you've seen some of EDP or Eat Dat Pussy's videos, he kind of looks like he needs a little help getting a date anyway. But this is a crime. Doing sexual things with an underage girl is a crime. Even attempting to do anything underage with a girl is a crime. And in some states, it's a crime that requires prison time. I would just love to see a cross-examination. Now, officer, what drew your attention to this particular online personality to begin with? Well, it was his name. It was Eat Dat Pussy. And it just wouldn't go down well in court. But the one thing I do like about Eat Dat Pussy 445, he didn't get out and he wasn't super braggadocious about what he did or anything like that. So he's kind of kept a low profile, and he hasn't been charged with anything. So for all intents and purposes, I think if the crime doesn't originate with the government, like a government setup, they probably aren't going to do anything with this. But he after looking at the video, which I did watch, it seems like all the elements are there. And even though it was a setup, he's initiating some very salacious content with that underage girl. And when you do that, whether the girl is a girl or not, it is like somebody setting you up. It's still illegal. It's what your intent is. I had a case with a guy who is a jail deputy. He was a jail deputy. He got online and he thinks he's talking to a 14-year-old boy. And he's typing, and he's got his screen camera, and he's jerking off and doing whatever he's doing. And he goes out to Vermont to go meet an underage boy. Well, guess what? That underage boy turned out to be an undercover cop. And he was arrested. And so I get all the discovery, and I know what's on it. I hand it to my staff. I said, take a look at this. By the time I got back to my office, my secretary was screeching because guess what it was? It was him cuffing the carrot. This online stuff, guys, the online stuff, number one, there's a record of it. Number two, there's a record of your conversation, so it's hard to say it wasn't you. And number three, they're easy to prove. So you're better off with your own age doing normal shit. Anyway, so that's EDP 445. Eat Dat Pussy 445. Give me a break. All right, let's transition into white collar. Now, white collar is pretty much classified as anything to do with finances or fraud. Mortgage fraud, loan fraud, and you guys probably know that the government has instituted a loan program called PPP, the Payroll Protection Program. Well, guess what? Whenever the government does anything like that, it's ripe with fraud, and those loans are document intensive. In other words, you have to document why you need to get the loans, right? Well, when you do that, it's very easy to determine whether or not the documents you presented were fraud or not. And so let's kind of get into some of this. This is kind of, there's been approximately $341 million in PPP loan fraud so far. And these loans are going out to people. It's really supposed to be meant for so you can keep your programs going, so you keep your employees employed. So 2 men, identity theft and conspiracy in Rhode Island. Let's see, David Stavelli and Kurt Sanborn and David Butzinger were charged with conspiracy to seek over $530,000 in PPP loan money. They allegedly discussed their fraud in an email. See, it's right fucking there. Email, and one assumed the identity of his own brother. It's alleged that they falsely claimed to have dozens of workers at 4 different businesses, including restaurants, and neither of them owned. These aren't hard to prove. You've got a reality TV personality, $3.7 million. You've got a Manhattan businessman, $20 million. $20 million. You've got a Hollywood film producer. You've got a software engineer. You've got, listen, all these guys. It's just absolutely amazing. There's a former Microsoft employee who bought 4 different businesses and just on the internet with no employees, and took all kinds of money and brought it into his business, and fake business, and purchased a home with it, put it into his stock account. Well, that's not what the money's for. It's got to be used for rent. It's got to be used for salaries for your employees. You can't just go buy shit with it. Now, let's talk about Pretty Ricky. Pretty Ricky, Baby Blue, he's going to be pleading to PPP loan fraud. And the total amount of his scam was $24 million. $24 million. Let's see. He's going to plead guilty if he hasn't already. And, he says, this is what he says: I ain't tripping. When I get out, I'm going to be a rapper like Gucci Mane, or ripped up like Gucci Mane. And I'm going to be one of the hottest rappers in the world. My new single, I'm not even going to mention this single, dropped Friday. Baby Blue added that he would miss his family, explaining only one thing I'm going to miss is a time away from my kids. I just had a baby boy this year, and I'm going to miss his giggles for sure. And these people are buying Lamborghini SUVs. They're just using the money like, whatever. And I think, what he's not really taking into account is, let's talk about the federal guidelines for a second. At $24 million, he's lucky because the next level up is $25 million. So he's just under $25 million. So that means you start out at 7. Because of the loss amount, you add 20 points, so that's 27. And then you add probably sophisticated means, that's 2. More than $1 million affecting a financial institution, add another 2. So he's looking at a level 31, which if you get 3 points for acceptance of responsibility, so now you're looking at 87 to 108 months. Those are months, just under 8-9 years. And when a judge sees a statement like "I ain't tripping," you should be tripping. I mean, you should have some remorse. I guarantee you, he ain't gonna tell the judge he ain't tripping, because all that does is that tells the judge that you don't give a shit. And one of the factors that the judge looks at is, sending a message essentially to show the seriousness of the crime, and whether or not there is remorse. So, I don't wish ill on Pretty Ricky at all, but if he was my client, I'd tell him to keep his mouth shut. What's he doing an interview for? And in another report, there was a Houston man. I love this one. He was he charged in Houston with a PPP loan scam, and this is what his business was. He said his business was selling his food stamps, and so he got PPP money. So they arrested him, and then he gets out of jail, and he posts on social media that I bonded out with that money. I mean, you can't make this shit up. It's hilarious. So you got a guy claiming his business is selling his food stamps, which is illegal to do anyway, and then he's getting PPP money for selling his food stamps in his quasi business, and then flaunting everybody in the face, saying, "Oh, by the way, the money that I got, I use that to bond out." So you can see it on the Twitter here. All right, so now let's get to Lil Durk. Lil Durk is charged with a number of things. Attempted murder. He's charged with felon in possession of a firearm and 4 other charges. He is out on bond, and we haven't really heard much from him, which is a good thing because you don't want your client out there. But he's had a preliminary hearing. The preliminary hearing is where they determine probable cause. And this case has been going on for 2 years. But when you have a preliminary hearing, it's just basically the government has to show that they have enough to go to trial. And they have to show that it's probable cause, just that it's more likely true than not true that something happened and that that a crime was committed and that Lil Durk committed the crime. They have had that preliminary hearing. Probable cause was found. They've had a couple other motions hearings, and I believe there was an appearance that was set in February. I don't know why it's taking so long. It shouldn't take 2 years. Although I will have to say that COVID has slowed everybody down. I'm going to trial on a murder case on Monday or tomorrow, and the courts are just absolutely backed up, and I'm sure it's that way everywhere. So the next thing for Lil Durk will be a trial, unless I have no information to suggest that he's doing anything other than just heading straight to trial. I don't have any information that he's snitching or that he's going to take a deal or anything like that. And so the facts of his case are going to be played out in court, which is where they should be played out in court. You don't see a whole lot of statements coming from his camp. They're laying low, which is exactly what they should be doing. If he were to be found, if Lil Durk is found guilty of the attempted murder case, he'd be looking at a sentence well in excess of 10 years for sure. And then the gun case, like I've said before, it generally has a mandatory minimum of 5 years. That's just a simple possession of a firearm case. So he's got a lot riding on this, and this is the time where your actions in a criminal case can really make the difference. Because if you kind of take your eye off the ball, you're the defendant, you're kind of take your eye off the ball and you're out partying with your friends and you're doing things you're not supposed to be doing, you can really ruin it for your chances at trial. I can't tell you how many cases I've had where I would have been just fine. We have a chance to win a trial, but because of my client's actions, post-charging, they have, either they talk on the telephone when they're in jail, or they commit new crimes that are more serious, or they somehow do something to screw up their chances at winning. So it looks like Lil Durk is doing what he's supposed to be doing, and that's shutting the fuck up. And it looks like his lawyers are doing what they're supposed to be doing, and I wish him the best. So With that said, this has been another episode of Criminal Lawyer Reacts. I'm Bruce Rivers, board-certified criminal defense lawyer. You can't make any of this stuff up. Wish you guys the best, and we are fresh back from LA, and we'll have more content out here soon. If you like us, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter, hit us up on Patreon. We're doing some good work there, and would love to see you at the next one.